Welcome to Live Breathe Film, episode 81. You're here with Corey, Doug, and Murph. Thank you for joining us. Today we'll talk about the upcoming pivot from HBO Max to Max, which takes place on May 23rd, and what that ultimately means for you. But before that, we'll touch upon the current state of the winter spring box office and share some quick thoughts on the Super Mario Brothers movie, Air, and Dungeons and Dragons. All right.
We have an announcement. I just remembered.
We have an announcement. Okay.
Yeah, one of our podcasters, fellow podcasters, JP, uh, just had a new baby
That he
enter the world
did.
today.
Baby boy.
Congrats, JP. Very exciting. I'm glad you mentioned it. I thought about it earlier about saying something, but wasn't sure. But you did it for me, so thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
But yeah. Let's get into the episode. All right. So as far as box office is concerned, Titanic dropped in China, didn't make much of a dent. So Avatar: The Way of Water is safe at number 3 all time, both worldwide and internationally, at least until Avatar 3 comes out, and then ends up
Who knows?
fucking dominating potentially again. But that's the last we'll be talking about Avatar and its box office until 2024. But the real big news as far as box office is the fact that the video game adaptation curse is officially over. If it wasn't already starting to be official with some of the movies that have come out in the last few years, such as Uncharted, which made a good amount of money, or especially on television with The Last of Us Season 1 and how big of a hit that was. The Super Mario Brothers movie made it official this past weekend. We're looking at a $205 million 5-day opening weekend, which makes it the largest 5-day opening in movie history in the U.S., topping after a very long 13 years or 14 years, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, which just goes to show how many non-5-day opening weekends there have been since 2009, or just how big Transformers was in 2009. You'll get some 4-day openers. I've tried, because Box Office Mojo sucks now. I can't really refer back to what has the record for like a 6-day opener or a 4-day opener. 4-day might still be Revenge of the Sith. I know at one point it was The Matrix Reloaded. 6-day, I think, might be Spider-Man Homecoming. But yeah, it's not necessarily its first 5 days in theaters, because by 5 days in theaters, Avengers Endgame had like $500 million. But it's the biggest of an official 5-day opening weekend. Its 3-day weekend proper was 146 million. So huge weekend, biggest opening weekend for an animated film worldwide. Topped Incredibles, or topped Frozen 2 worldwide in that regard. As far as its 3-day animated opening, it is behind the Incredibles 2's, or the Incredible 2's opening, which was around 180 million. I believe it topped Frozen 2's opening in the U.S. Not going to fact check that right now. But yeah, this movie gave audiences what it was looking for from a Mario movie. You can kind of tell from the trailers that it was going to, despite all the squabbling about Chris Pratt. He ultimately did a good enough job, I guess you'd say, as Mario. Corey and I both saw the flick over the weekend with other friends, and I think we all enjoyed it to an extent. It's certainly better than the 1993 live action film. No doubts there. But yeah, this movie is instantly pushing Corey up the charts. So I'm in third and have settled in my third place finish. at 285 million currently. I got a few films left, but they're not going to make much of a dent. Shazam, absolute bomb, already on VOD. It will be on HBO Max or Max in May. John Wick Chapter 4 might not even top John Wick Chapter 3 worldwide or in the US after its fall over its second and third weekends. So maybe we have seen the last of the official chapters in that series. Who knows? But yeah, Corey's now in second place with 343 million, based on the Super Mario Brothers movie and Air, both coming out this past weekend. I mean, the two of those combined practically gave him like a $225 million weekend or 5-day weekend. Air is fantastic. Easily my favorite movie of the year so far. Should be in Oscar contention come early 2024, based on the quality. It's a complete crowd pleaser. It should leg out a ton over the next month. And Super Mario Brothers likely will as well, because there really is not much competition coming out in April. It's really all R-rated films, or films not targeted for all audiences.
One
Then,
thing I thought was interesting was with Mario. Mario wasn't like even remotely in IMAX at all, or any of those, more expensive, more premium type of theaters. It was just straight up,
it was in all of them.
It was in IMAX.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, interesting. I didn't realize that. I thought it was in regular platform.
We just didn't bother seeing it in IMAX. It was there. Likely will this coming weekend as well, because there's nothing coming out. And then, but Corey, you're quickly catching up on Doug. I mean, he still has a $200 million lead, but it is going to dwindle considerably over the next week.
Yep.
But the last of your big movies have come out now, with Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which had a solid
60-something% drop in week 2.
Yeah, so it had a big drop in week 2, but it had a nice 40 million opening weekend. But is it a franchise after it's dropping in second weekend? I don't know. Probably not. But it was a crowd pleaser. It was enjoyable, I thought. That's how I'd sum up the movie. Enjoyable. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons guy, but it very much tried to be like an MCU type movie with the amount of humor in it, in relation to the source material and what they did take seriously. Corey, I think you probably liked the film more than I did. But if they make a sequel, more power to them. Cast was solid throughout.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it, but I imagine, Chris Pine is a pretty charismatic person that you could go pretty far on his charisma alone. He kind of made Wonder Woman watchable.
I could see it definitely becoming a series. I thought all the characters that they established were pretty great. I don't know how much legs. I mean, they could do so many different things, because it's Dungeons and Dragons. They just make up all these misadventures. But I thought the characters themselves were really great. They were fun. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with them. The movie seemed expensive, like in the effects. That was one thing that I was wondering, because that could go south very, very easily if the next one comes out and it just doesn't make enough money.
Yeah, it cost 150 million to make. So you're looking at, it needs like 450 to break even. Right now it's at 126 million worldwide. So my my guess is it doesn't get a sequel because they poorly timed it up to be against Mario in its second weekend. But could be wrong. It's going to top Shazam in the next day or so to be number 7 worldwide, and also some other film, another international film, to be number 6 worldwide. But yeah, Doug, you've got the biggest film in the Scream franchise officially now. You also have the biggest film in the Rocky Creed franchise, both of those not adjusted for inflation. Quantumania is officially not going to top Ant-Man and the Wasp domestically. I'm not sure about worldwide, but that was definitely a disappointment as a whole, both as a film and box office wise. It's 474 million worldwide. The last one made 622 million worldwide. So yes, it is not topping Ant-Man and the Wasp in any capacity. It might not even top Ant-Man 1 worldwide. That had 519 million. So yeah, it likely won't. So yeah, Ant-Man was not the film that we were hoping it would be.
Nope. And I had low expectations for that movie. I just forgot about Mario, and it bit me in the ass. So
yeah,
that'll likely cost me the draft. But glad to hear that it doesn't sound like there's a possibility that Murph's gonna win for the 1000th time since the inception of this draft.
Yeah,
you won every single one.
I got absolutely destroyed. But yeah, Doug, you still have 3 movies left coming out. Corey has 1 left. So, Doug, you have Renfield, The Covenant, and Somewhere in Queens. Corey has Beau is Afraid. I have 3 movies, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how high Mario Brothers goes. I mean, right now, I'd say the floor is 500 million, which was my prediction for it. The ceiling is somewhere above 600 million. Both of you predicted 600 million. So this weekend will be a good tell for where this movie is going to go. Ultimately, I know a lot of schools still have off for spring break this week, which helps. Yeah, there's no reason it shouldn't run the table throughout the month of April. But yeah, we'll do our summer draft on our next episode. I don't think any film similar to this past draft is super obvious to make an insane amount of money. So I doubt there'll be any sort of stipulations the way we did this one and some of our recent ones in the past, compared to the ones where we had stipulations when Avatar and Black Panther Wakanda Forever came out, and then we had stipulations when the Batman came out, and then when Multiverse of Madness came out, and then we should have had one when No Way Home came out, but we did not.
That's why we started the
That's why we
stipulations, because
yes.
No Way Home was just such a blowout that all you had to do is draft No Way Home.
Yes, literally, all my other films did poorly, but I had No Way Home, and I won almost instantly, despite you having the clear best draft. Similar to this one, you're going to have the clear best draft, but Corey is likely winning. Most might win based almost solely on the shoulders of Super Mario Brothers movie. So
yeah. Oh well.
Yeah.
I'll get it next time. I'm ready.
We'll be on to the next one. Yeah. Well, you can do our draft.
I've got a solid strategy.
Interesting. I can't wait to see and hear about the strategy. But yeah, you can pick the numbers for us heading into our next draft with where we're all drafting. Yeah, we'll report back in another week or two with where the winter spring pool is at and how high Mario has gone. But let's move to our feature presentation, unless anyone has any additional thoughts on anything about the films that have recently come out or anything like that.
No, I agree. I think Corey's going to win because Mario's going to I'm still sticking to my at least 600 million. I think that's realistically where it's gonna land. It's a cartoon. It's leggy. It's bound to be leggy. It had such a high opening. It just seems like 600 seems like a foregone conclusion to me at this point.
And you have currently 564 million. So yes, that makes it difficult for you to win, especially because all
Yeah,
your big ones have come out by now. But who
Renfield
knows?
should get me like
Yeah, maybe you'll get some
a couple
surprise.
hundred million.
Maybe you'll get some surprises with Renfield or the Covenant. I don't think you'll get anything out of Somewhere in Queens.
I don't think so. I don't think
Corey
Renfield. I think Covenant is my only hope.
will get some money from Beau is Afraid. Since Ari Aster and A24 have their built-in audiences.
20 mil.
20 to 30 mil probably. 40 if all the stars align. But I do not expect the stars to align.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Air is going to continue to make money. And then as far as you got some coins still left in Dungeons and Dragons and Scream 6 and Creed 3, but not much. Mostly just Dungeons and Dragons and a little from Scream. Maybe Dungeons and Dragons can have a better hold for weekend 3. But all right.
But yeah, I mean, I've kind of accepted the fact that I've likely lost unless someone like kneecaps Mario and Mario stops earning at the rate that I think it's going to.
And maybe Wario will come out of nowhere and kneecap Mario in the legs, and he'll be good to go.
Yeah, I need Wario and Toad to just take down Mario.
All right, let's get into our feature presentation, which has to do with the rebranding of HBO Max after the merge of Warner Brothers and Discovery into Warner Brothers Discovery. Despite the fact that Discovery Plus will still be its own existing service, HBO, we lost Corey. Let's give him a moment to come back. Damn it, Corey.
He's really not happy about the rebrand.
Yeah.
That Max is just gonna.
He knows he's gonna be off my account, so he's like, God damn it, fuck this shit. But yes, we have the rebranding of HBO Max into simply Max, the least SEO friendly name of all time. Not sure what they were thinking there. Since
they got the domain name though, I wonder if they had to pay.
Oh, they had to pay
buku dollars to get max.com.
They had to pay an insane amount of money because 3-letter websites are the holy grail, and every single one of them were taken.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
But so somebody just made coin. Congratulations to that person. But yeah, probably should have went with Warner Brothers Max, especially since they're keeping Discovery as an existing service, at least for now. But for now, we have Max. What we do know, yes,
it looks like they're going with the tagline, "The one to watch."
Yes, even though they have 2 services,
and it's all So they've got 2 services. The one to watch doesn't really even go with Mac. I don't know, it's just kind of weird. I don't know
if they're just saying they're the one streaming They're the one streaming platform to watch. They're trying to be bigger than all their competition. It's going to be tough, especially with these price tiers, which we'll be getting into.
And then they moved away from the purple to this blue color, which I don't like. I like the purple. I miss the purple already.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the transition from HBO HBO Now and HBO Go to HBO Max, but now I'm not happy with the transition to Max. Hopefully it works out. But
in the A, they kind of did They kind of did
the A
like
has the
O.
HBO O.
Yeah, it's got the O.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's kicking off May 23rd in the U.S. Every one of you who currently has HBO Max, it will turn into Max. If it doesn't automatically, you'll have to re-download the new app. But all your profiles, watch lists, etc., are going to move over. But the biggest thing for me, as far as this announcement goes, is the tiers. And I'm not exactly sure what it even means for the current tier that I'm on. My understanding is I will be on the middle tier moving forward, which I'm annoyed about, and I'm going to, I guess, have to pay extra. So this kind of sucks. But we have 3 tiers. We have Max Ad Lite, which is $9.99 per month or $99.99 per year. What you get from this is 2 concurrent streams, 1080p HD resolution, no offline downloads, 5.1 surround sound quality. And you will obviously be getting some ads because it's considered ad light. I hear it will be the least amount of ads in comparison to other streaming platforms, but you will be getting ads nonetheless. Our middle tier, which is basically the basic one, and again, from my understanding, what people who were on the current high end for HBO Max will be getting is the Max ad-free tier, which is $15.99 per month or $149.99 per year. Here you're getting 2 concurrent streams, 1080p HD resolution, up to 30 offline downloads, and 5.1 surround sound quality. Not great. Definitely a downgrade from what you were previously getting. Where you
Right,
had,
we're getting 4K right now, right?
we are getting
Yep.
4K right now, and we are getting, I believe, 3 concurrent streams at the moment. It might even be 5. I'm not 100% certain. But the highest tier is the Max Ultimate Ad tier or Max Ultimate Ad Free tier, which, like the previous
These are
one,
horrible names of the
it's
tiers.
fucking terrible. There are no ads like the previous tier I mentioned, but this one is $19.99 per month or $199.99 per year. Here you're getting 4 concurrent streams, up to 4K Ultra HD resolution, 100 offline downloads, and Dolby Atmos sound quality. So really everything that you would want and that you get already on HBO Max and what you get on platforms like Netflix and Disney Plus. I'm not sure what tier, if 4K and
Netflix makes you pay more for 4K
Netflix does. Okay, Disney Plus
and more
doesn't.
streams. Disney Plus doesn't yet.
Disney Plus doesn't
um,
yet. Netflix does. Um,
who else is there?
YouTube,
Amazon doesn't care about their streaming platform.
Amazon just throws their shit up in whatever quality you get. YouTube TV, I know, makes you pay for 4K. It's obviously different than these, but it does show that a lot of places do make you pay extra for 4K, which is frankly bullshit.
Yeah.
And also for the Dolby Atmos sound, this sucks. So if I'm not getting the Max Ultimate ad free, I'm going to pay the extra $5 a month to get it. Yeah, that's it as far as pricing. It's kind of insulting and annoying.
I mean, everyone's raising their costs, and I guess they're. I mean, they're at a place where one service raises their costs, and then everybody else kind of matches and does the same crap.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting to the place now. I mean, Disney's slowly going to continue working their way up, I have to imagine.
I mean, Disney, from what I'm hearing, Iger doesn't want to buy Hulu. He wants to unload Hulu. And in that case, Disney Plus will just be like their hub for everything. I mean, they've already gone to putting mature content on it in the Marvel universe, the Beatles documentary, some other things. All are TVMA related content. But which would be pretty shocking if that's the case. I mean, I guess that whole FX on Hulu would become FX on Disney because they are the owners of FX and their adult programming. But yeah, I don't know what that means for Hulu. Does anyone know who owns the other third of their remaining percentage of Hulu?
Comcast? I have no idea.
I do want to say you're right, Doug, and it is Comcast. Which, if
That
that
would
is,
make sense.
yes, it is. It's NBC
Okay.
Universal. So if that's the case, are they NBC Universal? Let's say they own all of it. Are they going to get rid of Hulu and move all their stuff to Peacock, or are they just going to get rid of Peacock, move all stuff to Hulu because Hulu's got a bigger subscriber base and is the bigger known brand? I don't know, but streaming wars are only going to get more convoluted and interesting over the next couple years. I mean, you look at where we were in 2020 to where we are now, and it is a completely different ball game. I mean, HBO Max.
COVID changed a lot of it because everyone
Yeah.
accelerated their any streaming plans because that was the main source that people were getting their entertainment. So Disney Plus launched before it was ready for prime time. Just to
Disney
get something
Plus,
out there.
Disney Plus launched strictly with fucking Mando in the end of 2019. I think Peacock launched in summer of 2020. HBO Max launched in summer of 2020. CBS All Access pivoted to Paramount Plus at some point in 2020 or 2021, and now that'll be pivoting to Paramount Plus with Showtime. So what I changed my statement earlier. Max is not the stupidest name in the world. Paramount Plus with Showtime is, but that's going to be somewhat of a game changer. And then Netflix does what Netflix does. It'll continue to just have no identity, pick up any show that it wants, and then cancel it after a couple seasons before they have to give people raises, with the exception of a few shows. And
yeah, I don't really understand where Netflix is going and what their future is. It seems like they do really well, and it feels like they're gonna turn into the place for this type of content, but like reality TV shows seem to be where it's like
they're going
really
to
doing well.
Yeah, they go into reality. They do a lot with stand up. They're starting to go into live programming.
Because it's cheap, and then you get a lot of eyeballs. Like I know a lot of people were talking about like Love Is Blind and Indian Matchmaker and like all those shows that they have on Netflix that cost nothing to make, and then people are spending 10 hours plus watching the episodes of these shows. So
yeah, and then Peacock really goes all in on its like live sports aspect, like the Olympics, like soccer, WWE. Now, I mean, with the new deal with WWE and UFC, both under Endeavor, maybe UFC ends up going to Peacock, or maybe WWE leaves Peacock in 2024 or 2025. Who knows? There needs to be some renegotiating there, but that's a service that doesn't quite have its own identity yet. The only one with a clear identity right now is really Disney Plus. Correct me if I'm wrong. HBO Max has one to a degree, but it's like getting so convoluted, and we'll get into it.
I feel like
Disney,
Paramount Plus has quite an identity at this point, and they've done.
I've been
Yeah.
impressed by how much that streaming service has gotten way better.
Very
I popped
quickly.
onto it and I haven't seen Paramount Plus in a while, and I was surprised at all the stuff they have on there now.
Yeah,
Between
and
like their movies and TV shows and everything.
It targets like a specific type of viewer
Yeah.
with a lot of its stuff, and I think it does it really well.
And with Showtime coming to it, it's gonna do even better or become even bigger. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see what it is. But yeah, it's no longer just like the Star Trek channel. Like now it's like very much the Yellowstone channel, and I don't know. It's for
And they've had a lot of big hits movie wise, so having their movies on there,
mhm.
like so now they've got good movies on there, and it's
Yeah,
just
it's the one thing Netflix lacks. You look at Netflix top 10 in movies, and it's all movies that like bombed 10 years ago in theaters, or in the last like 5 years in theaters. It's very strange, but like Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Paramount Plus, like they all have like new movies, like hit movies on them, and Peacock
well
as
the
well.
well where Netflix lacks though is Netflix doesn't have like a true studio
Yeah,
component, whereas a
yeah. I
lot of
mean, the
these other
closest thing
streamers
it
do.
has is a first look deal with Sony movies. Um, but I mean, even now, Paramount Plus is gonna with Showtime. They're gonna have their first look deal with A24, which will be huge for them. Um,
That is huge.
so yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I guess we should pivot back a little bit to Max and how it kind of seems like they're going backwards in what they had said the plan was
Yeah.
about getting away from streaming like originals and going all in on streaming originals for Max. The biggest thing being the biggest and most controversial thing being the new adaptation of the Harry Potter series. So we will be getting over the span of 10 years a 7 season at minimum adaptation of the 7 Harry Potter books. They said it's going to be a decade long endeavor, and you'll get the 7 books. The way they choose to adapt each one is up in the air, but they're getting as much of the book material into the series as possible. Um, it's a little quick, in my opinion, to be pivoting already to a reboot of the Harry Potter series
I
based on how beloved it is with the millennials and mostly millennials, and then I guess probably Gen Z, maybe even some Gen Xers. Um, then, did you see the teaser for it today?
Yeah, I watched it.
I
They
didn't see it.
It's
okay.
the same music.
It is the John Williams music to the movies.
I was gonna say I hope they use the John Williams music actually.
Okay, well they are at least for
The
at least for now. But if you're trying to differentiate yourself from the Harry Potter movies,
logo's the same.
you're doing a
too.
piss poor job so far. The logo is the same because I mean the logo is the logos of the books too, so there's nothing you can do there.
You've got to use the John Williams music, in my
Do
opinion,
you?
because that score is so good.
I guess.
And like they use that
mean-
music everywhere, like Harry Potter World and Universal.
They use
like,
it in the
that
game
music-
too, I guess.
yes,
but
but they also use all the Harry Potter, like everything that's based off the Harry Potter movies in the Harry Potter land. So is
Yeah.
everything just going to look identical? Is Hogwarts going to look identical to how it looked in the movies? Are they just going to repurpose the sets and just be like, "Hey, here's new actors playing these characters
they might.
with more story"? Like, I'm kind of thinking that is what they're thinking.
Because I
think
think
this-
fans would get upset if the castle looked different or if it was like a different style. I think they would freak out over that.
If I were them, I get what you're saying, Murph, about like wanting to differentiate and be your own thing. At the same time, though, you've got so much about those movies that are iconic that like people feel like that's Harry Potter, that it would definitely be tempting to like pull in classic Hogwarts from the movies, pull in the John Williams score. Um, I'm actually not opposed to this idea because I always thought Harry Potter probably would have been truer to the source material if they had they did it in the TV show format and everything wasn't so condensed, like they had to do it for the movies. But I get why people are upset. The movies are, like you said, people love them. and didn't want to touch. It is a little soon, but I mean, fucking that Wednesday show is basically a Harry Potter TV show. Um, you know, things are ripping it off right now, so I could see why they're like, why don't we just we've got this franchise. The prior that the last group isn't willing to do Cursed Child anytime soon. We got this IP shit sitting on the shelf. Why don't we do a TV show?
It's all happened because Fantastic Beasts bombed. If they could have made successful spinoffs, then this wouldn't be happening. I was saying to somebody else today, how long until Amazon just goes, fuck it, let's just adapt the Lord of the Rings books into seasons rather than do this prequel nonsense?
Well, that's what HBO had
Which
pitched.
doesn't seem to be doing very well. I hear the majority of people who start the Lord of the Rings show stop it.
Yeah, I heard that too. The completion rate is like super low.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they already have greenlit.
I don't think it's their
season 2,
biggest
but
show.
no, it's by far not. I don't know if they greenlit season 2 yet or not, and they had already completed it. But if they hadn't, I wouldn't be surprised if they just stop, because I think the amount of money they invested into that show is not paying off.
And
For
time.
Amazon.
Took forever for them to make that first season.
It's a weird, tricky situation with them because Amazon only has the rights to do television-related Lord of the Rings things, while Warner Brothers has all the rights to do any sort of movie-related Lord of the Rings things. So we know we're getting an animated Lord of the Rings movie in next year, I think. That takes place like 100 years before Lord of the Rings.
Can Amazon though?
Can they adapt the books?
Yeah, I didn't think they could. I thought the Tolkien's estate allowed different pitches, and HBO I thought had pitched, or Warner Brothers had pitched, doing a show on HBO that would adapt the original books, and Amazon's the one that pitched the prequel, and that's how Amazon got it.
You are correct. Amazon doesn't actually have the rights to adapt any book by Tolkien. Instead, they have the rights to adapt the settings, characters, and histories of the Second Age. So Warner Brothers has the rights to the other stuff.
But I think Tolkien's estate has to
sign off
that.
on things.
Yeah.
And I know they're not big fans of Peter Jackson.
I thought they didn't want to. I thought they were a fan of the movies though.
From my understanding, they wanted Amazon was like, "Hey, should we like include Peter Jackson in this stuff?" And the Tolkiens were like, "No."
That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Even though from the little I've seen, it looks like it's got Peter Jackson-y vibes. I don't know. Didn't you watch the show, Doug?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I don't know. I thought it. Yeah, I mean, they definitely tried to do. It did have Peter Jackson-y vibes, but the writing was horrible. I thought it was. I was bored to tears watching that show.
Yeah, I heard nothing really happened.
Okay, so the Silmarillion, is that how you pronounce it?
Silmarillion, I think.
Not helpful when it has a name that you can't even, that none of us can confidently pronounce. But
that's
Tolkien,
the appendix thing.
Tolkien didn't sell off the rights to that, so that remains with the Tolkien estate. So the rights weren't given for either the big screen or the small screen. Yeah, so Lord of the Rings stuff's messy. Harry Potter's much more straightforward. Warner Brothers, they've got the rights to do what they want to do with it. I kind of am annoyed that they couldn't just wait to eventually have the original cast do Cursed Child. Granted, it would have been difficult because so many of the actors will be dead, unfortunately, by the time they would have gotten the chance to do Cursed Child as a film, like a 2 or 3 film series, because it's it has the time turner is a major aspect of it. So you can't bring back Alan Rickman. You can't bring back fucking his name is escaping me now, but the actor who played Hagrid. We're going to lose more of these actors, the older actors in the series, over the next 7 years if they were to adapt it in the true time frame of the gap between Deathly Hallows Part 2 and Cursed Child. There's a 19-year difference. There's been 12 years so far since Deathly Hallows Part 2 was released in theaters. So obviously more people are going to pass in the next 7 years. But I just kind of wish they would have gotten to the point where they could have adapted it. But maybe it's something that just never is adapted to film. And it just remains as a Broadway play until the end of time. It does have a feeling of fan fiction to it anyway, despite J.K. Rowling's involvement. But it just seems quick for me to already readapt these
very quick,
and they're going to have to make some changes. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah. It's pronounced Silmarillion.
Silmarillion. Okay. Thank you, Corey.
You're welcome. But yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think Warner Brothers is freaking out because Fantastic Beasts just could not get off the ground no matter how much they tried, and they want to do something with the property. I just don't.
I mean, they have that game that makes a boatload of money.
Yeah, the game is great too. But the game also it complements the movies. It doesn't take place of the movies. It's because it takes place, hundreds of years before the movies. So it's a companion. This is like straight up, I guess, retelling the story.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing.
I mean,
and J.K. Rowling's involved. She's executive producing it.
That doesn't mean anything.
She always stays involved, and one thing about her, she's always stayed involved in the properties. She's the reason why the Universal theme park is as good as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is her. Disney needed somebody who cared as much as J.K. Rowling to be involved in their translation of Star Wars and Avatar. I think they got Avatar more right than Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars to me is always like a big fail, but
I liked it, but I could see
they just don't have like
I've only been there once.
When you walk in
it doesn't have the immersive feel like and the magic, like you said, that Universal has with Harry Potter. I'm a Disney World person over a Universal person, but Wizarding World of Harry Potter is by far the best portion of any of the parks. Yeah.
I mean, they do it really well. You walk into, was it Hogsmeade?
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, you walk into that area and like the snow-covered roofs and everything. It's awesome. I remember the first time I saw that place, I was blown away. Which yeah.
No, continue, Doug. No, continue.
No, I was trying to think of a good way to pull us back to talking about Max.
The last thing I wanted to just say about Harry Potter was I did read that I think that they're going to be doing it like each school year is going to be a season of the show. So it's going to be a lot of content.
It's going to be similar to the movies, where each movie's a book.
Yeah.
Last school year, they're going to have to adjust seasons accordingly. Like if they give the same episode count to each season, some of these books some of these seasons are going to drag. Because Order of the Phoenix is like 3 times as long or 4 times as long as Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets. Probably 3 times. So you're either going to have to start moving some of the material around from other books into previous books, which I think will probably annoy people, or you're going to have to do different episode counts per season. Like season 1 might just be 6 episodes, while season 5 will be 12 episodes. I don't know. They need to figure out a way to balance it accordingly. But IP is the name of the game, and exploiting IP. That's all what Zaslav's all about. We already have our second Game of Thrones series, or second prequel series officially in the works now, with the weirdest name, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the Hedge Knight. Talk about redundancy in titling. Granted, you could say the same, I guess, about the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, but I don't know. For some reason, that always flowed better to me.
Doesn't sound like a final title.
Well, the book is called The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which I didn't even realize there was a book until this show got announced.
I feel like there's so many Game of Thrones books we're not aware of because George R. R. Martin.
George R.
R. Martin will complete his fucking mainline series.
Yeah, he's found a way to write about everything else, but yeah, the what is it called? The Song of Fire and Ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently there's a prequel book. I thought we were getting a Jon Snow series. Is that still in the works?
It's still being talked about, but I think Kit Harington's doing something else with HBO.
Okay.
It is still being talked about.
Because at least that's like a character. I don't know how many of these, like, granted, I didn't think I would be into House of the Dragon, but there's dragons and that, like, there's dragons are cool and they interest people and they're fighting each other, and you know, it's more entertaining. I don't know how much I care about somebody that's called a hedge knight.
It also sounds like it's like a buddy comedy, or like a buddy type movie, like something in an egg. Can you do some fact checking about what the main characters are? Because it sounded fucking ridiculous to me when I read about it earlier today. Granted, I'm someone who's a late adopter when it comes to spinoffs and things like that. I'm finally going to get into House of the Dragon now, because I know they have a plan. Like, it's only intended to be 3 or 4 seasons, which gives me much relief, rather than dragging on forever like Game of Thrones and not knowing where the hell they're going. But all right, Doug, you seem to have found the information about Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
I don't know if I found it. I don't see anything about an egg, but they just talk about how it's set 90 years before the event of Game of Thrones, and they chronicle the experiences of Sir Duncan the Tall, a humble hedge knight whose honorable comportment is often at odds with the schemes of the royals who rule the Seven Kingdoms. Okay. Duncan's forced to fight a brutal trial. Yeah, I don't want to...
His diminutive squire is named Egg.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a young Aegon the Fifth Targaryen, and this is while the Targaryens are still in power of Westeros, but it's after the era of dragons. Yeah, it sounds sort of goofy so far. It's based on a series of fantasy novellas by Martin.
Novella just means it's not just shorter.
Yes.
Okay.
Sort of like how Fantastic Beasts was ultimately based on a novella.
Oh, one of our viewers is saying the egg is a Targaryen.
Apparently. The egg is a Targaryen. Okay.
Yeah.
So the egg is short for probably Aegon, right? He's probably Aegon.
I don't know. Let's see. Maybe.
All right, I'm catching up on all these comments now. We're getting a lot of interesting stuff.
We're getting a bunch. Doug, what are you drinking? Missed that one from about 15 minutes ago, I guess.
Oh, so
sidetrack.
Easter Sunday there was nothing open except for a fresh market, and so it's seltzer called Montaigne. Shit.
So it's a seltzer, like a ranch water.
It's just water. Unfortunately, nice. I had a beer earlier today. That was good too.
And yes, the HBO Max account. How do the tiers impact people that still use their parents' account? You will still have your profile and everything. That will be moved over. So you don't have to worry about that. Passwords staying the same. And yeah, good solid analogy about Netflix eventually turning into the bargain DVD bin at Walmart. That's kind of how it feels like. It's the
Yeah.
Walmart
It really does.
Walmart of streaming platforms. It just throws everything in there, and most of it doesn't stick.
It kind of reminds me of, I was gonna say this earlier. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like was it the History Channel? No, the Learning Channel, um, where they tried to like find their way and have like interesting programs, and then they realized how cheap and easy like TV was, and just like went all in on reality TV. And it feels like Netflix is kind of going down that slippery slope, where it's just going to be like it's starting to be like a lot of reality TV and not a lot else.
They're not doing
So
like as much of those big budget things anymore. Some, but not really as many.
Yeah, it'll be
I don't
interesting
think.
to see what Netflix is like in a post Stranger Things world.
Mm.
But back to Max. Yeah, it seems like they're going to go all in on Game of Thrones moving forward. I know they had attempted some other adaptations. They did one pilot with Naomi Watts before House of the Dragon, but they didn't ultimately pick it up. But now we have our second spinoff coming. Maybe if George R. R. Martin ever completes the final two books, they'll go and readapt the final two seasons of the show. Based on everything we're talking about with Harry Potter
well, what they could
and
do is
readaptations.
by the time that happens, they'll just recast Game of Thrones and do it all over again.
That's true. Just go straight
Yeah.
from the
It'll just
top
be Harry Potter all over again.
and just do
Just
full
do it the
faithful
right way.
adaptations instead of what Benioff and Weiss did.
Just use the music and they're gold.
Yeah, I mean, all I really know about House of the Dragon is that they use the same music as Game of Thrones because it's so damn iconic. So similar to Harry Potter. But I guess the next big IP mine they're working with is DC because we already know chapter 1 of the Gods and Monsters of the new DCU is going to have 5 TV shows at least. All of those will be coming to Max. We also have Harley Quinn, upcoming seasons of that continuing to go to Max. And then today we got our first look at Penguin from Matt Reeves's world of the Batman, which frankly looks awesome and like a perfect continuation of the Batman and the mob side of that world that we got in last year's film. What did you think so far of what we got a taste of? Obviously, Colin Farrell is looking like more of not Colin Farrell, but he looks fantastic in it. Anything else that stuck out to you?
The one thing that I was thinking about was, are we going to see Batman at all in this? Like, is there? I wonder if we'll see him, if there'll be a glimpse of him. I'm not really even sure like when this takes place, if that would even make sense.
It's before the Batman, right? Because it's his rise to power, or
It's
no?
after the Batman.
I wasn't sure.
His rise to power is after
Okay.
Carmine dies.
Yeah.
Oh, that would make sense because there's a hole now for him to fill.
Exactly.
So we could see Pattinson in some capacity, maybe.
Perhaps.
I hope if we like just like maybe like side hear about something he did, or I hope there's no. I don't think they will. I mean, I don't think we need like him to show up and there to be any confrontation with Pattinson. But if we happen to hear things, just about him existing in this world, I think that's probably fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'd prefer this to really just focus in on like the criminal like underbelly of Gotham, and just kind of get a feel for and just see Penguin and what Penguin has to do in order to rise up the criminal ladder.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's going to be dealing with Sophia Falcone, played by
Mm-hmm.
Kristen Milioti. She's the daughter of Carmine Falcone in the comics. Clancy Brown is joining the cast as Salvatore Maroni. He was a big topic of the Batman film, and potentially, well, he was the fall guy in Carmine's story for how Batman's or Bruce's parents died. But we know him going to jail, Carmine being the rat and getting Maroni to jail was what made him become like the most powerful figure in Gotham City. So far we know that they're in it. Michael Zegan is playing Alberto Falcone, the son of Carmine. He was a member of Boardwalk Empire, so they like to keep it in the family over at HBO or Warner Brothers or Max, whatever we want to call it. But in addition to that, we also got the cast announced for Creature Commandos, which is the first television show to come out of the James Gunn new DCU. It's the first part of Chapter 1 prior to the first Superman movie coming out in summer of 2025. Doug, are you looking up the cast?
Yeah, I was trying to. Full cast. Is this live action or is this a cartoon?
This is a cartoon, but anyone who does the voices of the cartoon characters will also be playing themselves in any live action roles moving forward. James Gunn said today that Frank Grillo, who will be playing Rick Flag Sr., will be playing him in live action and animation. That we have gotten confirmation about.
That's really cool.
And we already know Sean Gunn played Weasel, or did the mocap for Weasel in the Suicide Squad, and he's one of the members of Creature Commandos. Doug, you want to run through the rest of the cast?
Yeah, sure. So Sean Gunn is going to be reprising his role as Weasel. He was in the Suicide Squad, I think, is when we saw him.
But,
Frank Grillo, you already mentioned, is going to be Rick Flag. Maria Bakalova will be Princess Alana Rostovic. I don't know who that is as a character. She's a princess. Indira Varma will be the bride.
yeah, it's the Bride of Frankenstein.
Okay. Zoe Chow will be Nina Mazursky.
I just saw her on the latest season of Party Down. She was solid on that. She was a main cast member.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with her, nor am I familiar with Nina. Alan Tudyk as Dr. Phosphorus. David Harbour as Eric Frankenstein. I think that's a good casting. I'm guessing he's the Dr. Frankenstein.
He's the monster, not the doctor.
Well, that's confusing.
Yes. It's been confusing for people since the book came out.
And then Sean Gunn's another character as G.I. Robot.
Yeah, he's two characters.
That's weird. And then this announcement, they separated Sean Gunn instead of being like, oh, Sean Gunn's going to be Weasel and G.I. Robot.
You want Collider also?
Yeah.
Yeah, so am I.
So that's interesting. And then Steve Agee is Agee. How do you pronounce his
Steve Agee will be back as
Agee.
John Economos from
yeah, which he was great in
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker.
Yeah, and Suicide Squad, and his little cameo in Shazam, too, which won't have any ramifications on the future, unfortunately.
Yeah, I heard about that. I still haven't seen the movie, but yeah, I heard he makes an appearance because Dwayne Johnson shut down what they were trying to do, which was have the Justice Society show up.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, we've got a lot of DCU stuff coming, both in the new mainline DCU and then the Elseworlds aspect, which includes the Penguin. Yeah, I'll probably pick and choose which projects I watch. I'll definitely watch Creature Commandos because James Gunn wrote all the episodes, so that's a stamp of approval for me. And I'll definitely be watching the Penguin and anything else that comes out in relation to Matt Reeves' universe. They didn't talk much else about DC today, but they've announced other shows that are coming, such as Booster Gold, um,
Waller.
Waller, yep, the spinoff of Peacemaker, Paradise Lost, which takes place in Themyscira, and there's one other one. What are we miss? Oh, the Green Lantern related show.
Oh yeah. With it's gonna be Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan.
Yeah,
I
which was
think are the two.
described, I believe, as like superheroes meets True Detective, which
Yeah.
fucking let's segue into True Detective Night Country. We got
Look
our
at
first
that.
we got our first trailer of that today, which is season 4 of the anthology series. But unlike seasons 1 through 3, it's not being run by Nick Pizzolatto. This has an entirely new showrunner, but it's got Jodie Foster hunting a serial killer again, which is very welcome for fans of Silence of the Lambs. And the Alaska setting and taking place right before it goes to like the all dark period of the year in Alaska seems like it's going to make for some really cool storytelling.
Hmm.
Um, what are your thoughts on your first look? And are you intrigued or concerned about the fact that it's being run by new people than seasons 1 through 3?
I mean, I'm definitely a little concerned, but it's a little. I still haven't watched season 3 of True Detective. I still need to get around to it. I think unanimously, season 2 was disappointing for everyone. Season 1 was great. I know. I think both of you liked season 3 more than season 1. Um,
Yeah, I really
so
enjoyed season
Yeah.
3.
I I would have liked the showrunner to come back. His name escapes me at this point, but so that was disappointing. But it, from what we saw, it does look like it translates that show pretty well. It has that like very dark brooding sense to it. Obviously, it's a mystery. Um, Jodie Foster definitely. I'm getting like Clary Starling vibes from what I've seen of her, which is pretty neat, and that's kind of what I was expecting. But so I liked what I did see, even though we really didn't see like we didn't get a lot of glimpses. It was very much a teaser. I felt.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm a little worried because the showrunner is not the same. I think the setting's a really great setting. Alaska's setting in Alaska, I think, is a really cool choice. I think Jodie Foster um, being in law enforcement is interesting. It is really hard to separate her from her one of her most iconic roles in Silence of the Lambs. Because I kind of started looking at her in that Silence of the Lambs lens, even though I've seen Jodie Foster in other things, and I don't usually make that connection. Um, but it's intriguing. I would say there wasn't anything about the trailer that got me like amped to see it, but I'm intrigued about it. And I'll definitely give it a shot. I hope it's good.
Do we know when it's dropping? Did
Just said
they?
that said this year.
Okay.
Um, we know we know Barry starts this coming week.
Oh
Perry
yeah,
Mason
Barry.
Perry Mason will be ending soon. Succession will be ending soon. Righteous Gemstones is having its premiere at ATX TV Festival down in Austin in the beginning of June, so that'll likely be a summer show. Would shock me if True Detective is either summer or wait till early fall, just based on the type of show it is. Depends on how many miniseries they have coming out this year. We've got Curb coming back at some point this year. Euphoria definitely won't be back this year, but The Idol from Sam Levinson, the creator of Euphoria, that new show will be starting this year. It's from him in the weekend. So HBO has plenty of things on the docket. Um, House of the Dragon season 2 just started production, but that won't be ready till some point next year. Um,
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot of giant time to put those dragons together
yeah, exactly.
too once they're done filming.
But yeah, they got plenty of stuff on deck. But based on the fact that we already got a trailer for True Detective, it leads me to believe it probably will be a summer show. That new show, White House Plumbers, that miniseries with Woody Harrelson and Justin Theroux, starts May 1st and looks like a lot of fun. It's about
Never even heard of it.
Check out the trailer after this. It's about
Yeah,
two of the guys who broke into Watergate, like who worked for Nixon. It looks like it's gonna be a blast. Only 5 episodes. They're just getting it out in time for the Emmys because, like I was telling you, they needed to. Any show that's up for the Emmy qualification eligibility period this year needs to have their season completed by May 31st. So we're seeing a lot of stuff coming out now over the next month and a half. Hence, Succession and Barry both ending right before the end of May. White House Plumbers. But then, anything that comes out after May 31st, or that isn't completed by May 31st, won't be eligible for the Emmys until the following year.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of content. I mean, I think I was saying this earlier, but I mean, value-wise, out of all the streaming services, I think Max. I'm gonna try to get myself used to saying it. I think Max offers, probably the most interesting library to me because they has all of Warner Brothers movie content, which is strong, and then HBO just knocks it out of the park with their TV shows. So when you have those two elements together, I think they've got both sides covered, and so I find myself finding the best value I think out of Max than I do probably any of the other streaming services.
Same here. Remember when Christopher Nolan went like nuclear on Warner Brothers and said HBO Max was the worst streaming platform?
Mm-hmm.
This was, I guess, around the time that he put that
the day and date.
Yeah, the day and date release for Wonder Woman 1984 and everything for 2021. It's turned out to be very different. It is arguably the best one.
He was right that day and date was like
he was very right that
a
day
shitty idea. Like that was a horrible idea.
Yeah, even Zaslav said today, like he's happy that the competitors are putting their stuff in theaters. Like Amazon has seen a ton of success now with Creed 3 and Air. Apple is putting out Killers of the Flower Moon and Napoleon, 2 big budget movies from Scorsese and Ridley Scott later this year. They're going in theaters first. It's really just Netflix that is holding on to keeping their stuff on the platform, with the exception of Knives Out or Glass Onion had that little limited release. And now, obviously, with Bob Iger, Disney has gone all back in on theatrical.
Doesn't it seem like Netflix is just? I mean, if they just stick to their guns, no matter how stupid their strategy seems to be, like they don't seem willing to evolve too much with the times. Like they're drop everything at once strategy seems like it doesn't work. Like it seems like a lot more streamers are having success.
At this point.
Yeah. I watched Beef this past weekend, and nobody's gonna be talking about it again in another week. Well, this show could have been something in the zeitgeist for 10 weeks straight.
And it gives people a chance. Like you could get to episode 3 and everyone's talking about how great it is, and it gives people a chance to hop on board, and then everybody just it slowly picks up steam as it's going, and then by the end, everybody's watching the finale and talking about it. And I just don't understand why Netflix doesn't get that.
I don't get it either. I know some people who love the fact that they drop all their stuff and who don't love the other platforms that do it separately, that drop it on a weekly basis, but nearly every other platform drops weekly at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just I think there are definitely some times where I love getting it all at once, but from a business standpoint, I just think it makes zero sense for them to do it that way. It allows them to stretch their content out further,
keep the subscribers longer.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any. I don't understand why they refuse to change on that. I think they see it as a differentiator, but I don't think it's a good differentiator.
No, I think it's just an old model that they're not willing to let go of yet. It worked for the time because it was new. It was something completely new, but
Yeah, it was the only
it's
game
not.
in town.
Yeah, it's not the best way to do things.
But I mean, some of the companies that were doing it, they pivoted back. They realized like it doesn't
Hmm.
make sense. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I guess some other updates with Max. They are going to be getting back into the kid um, friendly programming. They're going to have parental controls similar to like Disney Plus now has and other platforms, so they can actually have kids programming. That was one of the big things that they announced today. They have so much IP that's targeted to kids, like Looney Tunes, Harry Potter,
Yeah, it makes
etc.
sense. They
That
should do that.
yeah, but they'll be doing that. They'll also be airing a lot of their Discovery related programming on HBO. Sorry, on
On
Max,
Max.
which is what makes it confusing that they're also having Discovery Plus remain as its own standalone service. Um, Seems like some of the content is just going to be on both platforms. Maybe eventually over time, they'll
Must
get
be.
rid of Discovery Plus.
Yeah, I mean, Discovery Plus starts at $4.99 a month.
Yeah, so it's so cheap that maybe that's the
Hmm.
reason.
They must think like they're gonna lose out on those people that only want to watch, the
Yeah,
HD TV stuff, and they don't want to spend $20 or $15 for all the other content.
it's which is fair. Sure, there are plenty of people who would shell out 5 but wouldn't want to shell out 15, especially if they're not interested in the types of programming that HBO and everybody else
Yeah, I
are
mean, if
wanting.
they're just looking to watch like House Hunters and Property Brothers all day, every
Yeah,
day, like
I use someone's Discovery Plus to watch Ghost Adventures. Like that's literally the only thing that I watch on that platform is Ghost Adventures when I'm like in the mood to watching that. But I guess yeah, probably for $4.99 a month. I didn't even know it was that cheap.
I didn't know Ghost Adventures was even a show, but apparently there's been
Yeah,
27 seasons.
27. Yeah, I was gonna say 28 seasons, but yep, it's amazing.
Wow.
but I guess pivoting back for one final point on my end, it seems like while they had talked about getting away from original content on HBO Max, with Max they're having original content, but it's all television based content.
Hmm.
While the film side, they're keeping theatrical, um, and that's the intended place for things to go. And then eventually it'll downstream its way onto Max, um, where its value will be higher with the fact that it already had all that promotion by being a theatrical release. Because
Hmm.
there is no doubt in my mind, and the data proves it, that movies that play theatrically ultimately perform better down the road on these other
Yeah.
platforms. I mean, Netflix is an example of that. Like we were talking about, if you look at the top 10 movies on Netflix, you're going to see some weird ass shit on there, but there are going to be movies that played theatrically at one point or
Hmm.
another. It's not just their Netflix original movies. Those things, they seem to get their minutes over the first week or two, and then they sort of die because the quality isn't necessarily that high, or people associate them as like direct to video. Um, while something that actually had a theatrical marketing budget behind it is just looked at as higher quality.
Yeah, it kind of cheapens it a little bit when it's just gets released on a streaming platform, like an Air released on Prime.
That was
I mean, it
originally
would
gonna be it was originally gonna be a
right.
prime time movie, and then there were like they chant the person somebody in MGM who championed it for being a theatrical release. He unfortunately passed, and over this past year, made it happen, and it made over 20 million, and it's going to be leggy and probably going to be nominated for a ton of awards at the end of the year. Who knows
Yeah,
if
and
that would
then
have happened if it was a streaming release.
yeah, and then by the time it comes to streaming, because eventually it'll go back onto Prime, like it'll have a lot of interest of people that either didn't go to the theaters or want to see it again, that go on the streaming service and watch it. Plus, it's already made 20 million. I mean, I guess we'll see how leggy it gets, but that's already $20 million it would not have made had on
Hmm.
Amazon Prime. Like
Yep. And
it
it'll
just makes
eventually
so
be
much more
on
sense.
Prime, and Prime, like people can watch it there when it's on there in a couple months. But yeah, hopefully
Yeah,
by the
it's
time the third Benoit Blanc mystery comes out, Netflix just goes, fuck it, let's give it a full theatrical release. Um, because it would have been, I mean, I saw Glass Onion in theaters and Knives Out in theaters, and those are just fun experiences to share in a communal way, versus watching it at home on a couch with whoever.
yeah. No, it's they're. I mean, they're obviously dabbling with the last Glass Onion. You know, they're sticking their toe in the water of theatrical. But yeah, hopefully by the third one, they realize that this model makes sense and that they really need some theatrical movies to play ball with some of their competitors.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Either that or Netflix will die and get acquired by somebody.
Also possible.
We'll see. Anything else in regards to Max?
Um, no, I already mentioned how I don't like the change from purple to blue.
And I hate the name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's going to be something to get used to all over again.
I feel really bad for the people who have a Max, who's like somebody they live with. So I feel like that's going to cause confusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like anyone who lives with a
Alexa,
Alexa or a Siri.
that's worse. That's definitely worse living with
Yeah.
an Alexa.
True.
Yeah, I know. Like conference calls and stuff. People like if someone named Alexa's on the conference call, like it'll just throw everybody who has a Apple device.
Causes chaos.
Oh man, because you could obviously you'd reprogram the one in your house, but then you have the issue of everybody else's device who doesn't
I didn't
have
even
it.
know you can reprogram them.
Yeah, there's an option for people that whose name is
Rename them.
Alexa to just say like, "Hey you," or I don't know what the wake phrase is, but yeah, no, I mean it's interesting. We all agree the name sucks. Um, I don't think there's going to be a ton of confusion. I think people will get that it's HBO still because maybe that was part of why they kept the Max part of it because people are used to HBO Max. Um, it seems less of a confusion than the HBO Go, HBO Max, HBO like
Yeah.
the 5 different HBOs that
HBO,
existed at
yeah,
one
HBO
time.
Go, Now, and Max. That was a clusterfuck. Um,
I still don't really like understand if there was a difference between them or not, or
I
yeah, it
mean,
was
Go and
weird.
Now are the exact same thing. It just depended on if you had a cable subscription or if you didn't have a cable subscription. Max was when they added a ton more content to it, but it didn't make sense because HBO was just a portion of everything that was in that hub. It should have been Warner Brothers Max. And then now with the
With
Warner Brothers
Discovery. Yeah.
Discovery, we just go down to Max. Um, at least they didn't put Discovery in the name because, again, they are keeping Discovery Plus as a platform. So um,
Yeah.
it'll take some getting used to, but we'll get used to it down the road.
Yeah, I think so. Just keep saying Max, and
Yeah,
it'll sound normal at some point.
exactly.
Do we have
But
more
yeah,
comments?
uh, more about Game of Thrones and when we were talking about stuff over there about that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think that's all we've got for today. So thank you again for listening, watching live, commenting, etc. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Subscribe to Apple, Spotify, whichever podcast platform you prefer. YouTube. But on our next episode, we will definitely be doing our summer box office draft for our summer box office pool, where we pick what we believe will be the biggest films of the summer. So this is going to be an exciting one because there are a lot of big movies coming out. It's going to be
What we got? We got the
interesting.
Flash, Guardians.
Spider Verse,
Oh yeah, Spider Verse, Blue
Blue
Beetle.
Beetle, Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, a new Pixar movie, Little Mermaid. Um,
That's
a
crazy.
new Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles, Transformers. There is a lot coming out this summer. So
Well,
yeah,
Finally.
it'll be interesting to see if superhero fatigue, comic book fatigue is real, and if how much we believe it's real in how we draft. But that's all we've got. So we'll see you for that next episode. But as always, this has been Corey, Doug, and Murph at Live Breathe Film. We'll see you again next time, film fans.
Bye.